Since my childhood, I used to go to church, but I had no attachment and intimacy with the Lord. It is in 2004 that I was really born again and I connected with the Lord. In that year when I came to Christ, the power that controlled my family attacked my relatives, killing 3 members of our family in the same year. I come from a family where the father and mother are descendant of royal court, where worship is done to God of our ancestors and unseen spirit. Because of royalty, my ancestors worship the dragon Leviathan, the queen of the sea and the ancient serpent. As a result of these wicked spirits were making claim, reclaiming all of us in the family. They block everything that we were undertaking. I was sleeping, then I heard someone calling my name at 1 a.m. I woke people and asked them who was calling me. To my surprise, they all told me they did not call me. I tried to sleep, but the voice called me for the second time. People told me, "Go back to sleep, no one is calling you." I was trying to find sleep when I heard this voice for the third time. It was a tremendous voice, and my room was filled with great scintillating light that descended from the heaven. The voice told me, "I am the Lord your God who is calling you. I have removed your name from the list of death. You and your daughter will not die. From this day onward, you are my servant." The call of God in my life caused stir and alarmed the dark forces that my ancestors were worshipping. As a result, when I tried to sleep, I was unable. I saw evil forces with my eyes. They bound all the family in chains and they were about to take them to the kingdom of darkness. This is because we were sold by our ancestors who were worshippers of fallen angels, serpent and Leviathan. When I was still a child, every day in the night I could not sleep. I was persecuted and strangled, and I woke up sick, until the day the Lord came in my life. When the Lord called me, he spoke to me almost every day in great light, giving me instruction and guidance about prayer. The Spirit of God began to lead me and gave me the gift of vision and revelation. I began to hear the audible voice of the Spirit of God. Back then I was 19 when my prayer life intensified and demons began to run away from me. They could no longer oppress the family like before. These ancestral and family spirit were attacking all the family in a systematic and relentless way. These were powerful fallen angels, but the Lord took control. Few days later, whenever I slept, I saw that I was decapitated by demon. My body was laying on one side and my head was on the other side. Whenever I pray and sleep again, I would see my head back on my body and I was whole again. But I kept seeing in the dream that my daughter and I had our head decapitated. One day I dreamed that I was inside the belly of a huge serpent. My father royal court was connected to this huge black serpent. I kept dreaming the head and mouth of a serpent. Because of family and generational covenant, I kept dreaming that I was in a coffin and I was buried. Dreadful things. When I came to the Lord, he asked me to evangelize. When I announced the gospel to the people, I was stunned by the blessing that followed and financial door were opened. Demons were fleeing. When I served God, my need were met without even asking God. Then the Lord asked me to intercede. As a result of many prayers, doors were opened in my life. I saw dark forces and demon gathering around an evil altar. I saw demon of first and second heaven gathered around an altar under the sea. They were bothered by the task of intercession and evangelization that the Lord gave me. A servant of God told me, "The devil issue a decree against you. If he cannot get you to work for him, he will kill you. That is why you see these numerous demons gathered." However, it is when I got a job, I no longer had time for God. My prayer decreased. As a result, wicked spirits were strengthened. The enemy began to have an upper hand. I could no longer intercede and evangelize. I was too exhausted. I slept a lot and became perilous. Whatever I saw in vision and dream, I could not stop it because I was unable to pray. The enemy went to attack my finance and blessing and cause havoc around me. In my dream and vision I began to see defeat and loss. Since I could not pray, I felt very far from God. I was not winning anymore. When I was heavy and unable to pray, the Lord showed me that I was rolled by a huge snake. When I pray and call God fire to come down, he left me and was gone. Since I continued to work in that company, there was no time for prayer and was unable to pray. I began to manifest temper, aggravation and anger that empower these wicked spirit. Fallen angels came back to fight me. My ex went to marry a woman from Benin who was in witchcraft, As a result, giant serpent joined the battle against me and my daughter. The serpent shot arrows of death to kill my daughter. We ran to a tent camp of prayer to seek protection. Witchcraft in Benin is really strong. I had to pray in order to destroy the arrow of death that had reached my daughter. In prayer I saw a glass that was burned in fire. I knew that there was a soul in that burning glass. When I prayed and it was revealed that the soul that was caged inside the glass was my daughter who was to die, the Lord led me to a lady messenger in the town. When we arrived I had the feeling that the Lord already spoke to her about my daughter. Before hearing me she took my daughter and said there is a veil of death over her. You need to fast for 3 days. On the second day of fasting and prayer, I saw in the second heaven instead of an empty glass burning in fire, it was my daughter that was hanged on the wood inside the fire. She was really dying. I saw a giant snake that rose from the fire to stop me from removing the child from the wood where she was hanged, and the snake was intimidating me, and moving here and there to terrorize me. I was empowered by the Lord and I grabbed the huge serpent and overpower him, and I grabbed the child from the wood. When I was leaving the second heaven, I saw crystal water from the fountain of heaven raining on the child. As a result the child's skin was refreshed. When I came back I realized the victory I had was thanks to 3 days of fasting and prayer. One day I moved in an accommodation of a friend who had many homes. On that day after moving I received the family. I cooked and we had good time in the family. When the family left, I was doing the dishes when I saw that my spirit had left my body, and I saw that I was dead. When I saw my body on the ground, I knew that I was dead. I was in despair. I said, how can I die just like that? What is it that killed me? I was crying and I knelt down and began to pray. I said, Lord, I died just like that. Please bring me back. I was crying and praying to God. As a result my spirit returned to my body, and I stood up. I was in wonder. I said, tonight I won't sleep, for whatever has killed me will come back. I prayed all night until the morning. Then I heard a great noise in the sky. When I looked I saw a huge serpent descending. Actually the landlord was a Muslim and he promised to send an imam to come to pray for the place before I move in, but I opposed him saying, I am a Christian. I would call a pastor to come to pray for the house. When this huge serpent came I saw that his head was as big as the building itself, and he could not enter my place. He rolled the building and told me, all the wealth and property of your landlord belong to me. Why do you say you will call a pastor to come to pray for the house? I am the one who had managed to kill you. Then the serpent began to fly to the sky and he roared. Since in the spirit the house had no roof, the serpent introduced his tail to the house and rolled me with his tail, and then he pulled me to the sky in order to swallow me. At that moment a flaming sword fell from heaven to my hand, and I grabbed it. I sliced the serpent. He roared and screamed greatly, and he released me and he flew away. I am testifying to tell somebody that Jesus Christ saved. Then I went to seek help in the church. As a result, fallen angel began to focus on the pastor and the church. On Sunday the pastor said, I saw that 4 people were to die in the church. I was in the list. The pastor said the Spirit of God told me we must fast and pray from today to prevent death. However, since we all failed to fast and pray, the first person to die was the pastor's wife, who died on Monday. Upon hearing the news of her death I began 3 days of fasting and prayer. Since I decided to fast and intercede for those who were supposed to die, the dark forces set their eyes on me. In the night I did not sleep a lot. I had prayed and every often I was able to hear whatever was plotted, conspired and planned in the gathering of fallen angels. The Lord was opening my ears and I could hear them clearly. I could hear Lucifer himself addressing them. Because of this conspiracy I lived a life dedicated to fasting and prayer, and everybody knew that I was not living a normal life. Because of continual retreat and campaign of fasting and pray, I saw that the level of this church was not high. The pastor told me he could not withstand these continual attacks, for he came under attack from the Leviathan and told me he could not continue and gave up. I understand that even if I can go to church I should only trust God. I decided not to go to church to seek deliverance, but to suffer in a life of fasting and prayer and seek the face of the Lord by myself at home, and trusting the Lord for deliverance. I also decided to serve God, hoping that He will intervene in my situation. It is because of commitment to fast and prayer at home and personal evangelization that I became triumphant, and I conquer in life, winning great victory. All the plan of dark forces were paralyzed because of dedication and consecration to prayer. I pray to the Lord to lead me to a church because my battle was increasing intensity, and I was struggling to raise my prayer life, and the enemy came against my health. I pray to the Lord to show me a living church that can confront and defeat these angels of Satan. I was attacked by ancestral spirit from my father and mother's side. No one go to church in my mother's side, thus I interceded for them. On my father's side they were in covenant with marine spirit and Leviathan, who was coming against me because they were unable to cause destruction as a result of my prayer. Prior to my conversion there were many death and many plot of destruction and people died. My intercessory prayer stopped them. As a result I and my daughter became their target. The family thought I was exaggerating with prayer, ignoring the battle that they were facing, and since dark entity was stronger than the church where I attended, I kept asking the Lord to lead me to a church where I will find victory.